Hello, everybody. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Fragility exhibition and events. Today, we will continue our journey with a student's diary. We have talked about fragility of beauty, of personality, of language, and fragility to protect. And today, we're actually focusing on fragility builds resilience. As you may know, Fragilità is an ongoing exhibition launched by Particle with the gracious support of the Italian Embassy in Kuala Lumpur. My name is Marta, and I will be moderating this conversation together with Giacomo on behalf of Culturit. Culturit is actually a network of students, professors, and professionals present in 12 Italian cities. It works on actual, innovative, and high social impact projects aimed at enhancing Italian culture and the strategic industries for the Italian economy. We do so by leveraging on our network, creating new connections and opportunities among students, professors, and professionals. This is actually what connects us to Particle, this desire to bridge communities and to close gaps. In fact, we do it through consulting projects, training and development of soft and hard skills, whereas they do it through art, offering immersive and interactive experiences. I would also like to thank Caterina Farnia, our visual illustrator who will join us today and help us visualize our thoughts through her sketches and illustrations, and also the UniKale students who will be joining this conversation today. Also, we invite you to jump right into the conversation with us. We are eager to hear your thoughts and opinions on what we will be talking about through Slido or directly from our website. This is the QR code, so feel free to scan it and jump right into the conversation with us so that you can interact with us through some questions and polls that we prepared for you.
This is the exhibition and these talks that Particle is hosting aim at celebrating fragilities as value. And we are here today to discuss how we respond to fragilities with resilience and how we build ourselves upon this fertile ground.
Yes, and actually thinking about this theme, Giacomo and I immediately thought about one of Maria Rapicavoli's pictures presented in the Fragilità exhibition, which we strongly recommend you to visit if you haven't already. It's a picture of a broken wine glass, which we will now show you. And we believe it clearly represented, the fact that fragility builds resilience. Giacomo, do you want to, maybe explain why?
Yes, so Maria Rapicavoli's work that you can see inspired us because what we saw in the stem of the wine glass is the ability to withstand difficulties and overcome them, while at the same time not forgetting them. In other words, the fragile moment that we live through contribute to form us as individuals, leaving us with skills that we can learn to use in future situations, for example. So the wine glass is like a trace of our fragilities. More specifically, its missing bowl represents what we have left behind, whereas the stem and the base are still standing, symbolizing the remaining part. The fracture is still visible, so as to represent the trace of the difficulties faced in those fragile moments. An actual fun fact is that the bowl of the wine glass is the missing part, which is actually the protagonist of the picture chosen from the previous live event, Fragility to Protect. So Marta, for example, how do you perceive fragility?
Well, I mean, fragility, I feel like is a very important part of our life, and it has always been, and it will always be very important to us, both at a personal and actually at a collective level. I mean, often, however, difficulties lead to resilience, so it's possible to overcome them through resilience, even though, this doesn't always happen. But I can immediately think of Maria Rapicavoli herself, who she had the capability to overcome, the difficult moment of the pandemic that we've been living for the past year already, shifting her attention to her own art in ways that were completely new to her. In fact, I don't know if any of you know, but she was used to capturing outdoor photographs. And with the pandemic, she was forced to, do what she did before in the comfort of her own home. So, I mean, that's obviously a big change. But she still managed to, So I feel like fragility does often lead to resilience, which is exactly what we're here to talk about today, which is, I feel like a definition could be, the capability, the capacity to withstand and recover difficulties. I don't know, maybe we can immediately ask you, the public, where can you see resilience around you? Where's an example where you can think of resilience? surrounding us as individuals.
So
I don't know if Giacomo.
Yes, I think that nature itself shows resilience each year, each season, and even each day. From the leaves that fall from the trees, or the trees that change color, to the flowers which blossom in spring. Moreover, it is possible to see the strength of nature conquering abandoned cities or buildings all around us. And especially during the pandemic, we have seen nature and animals reconquering the streets of different cities around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if any of our Malaysian friends here with us today have anything to add, if they can think of examples. Hi.
Hi.
I mean, I don't know if you can think of.
I think it's the even the people around me. When the pandemic started, I think the businesses and the people, they almost immediately found a way to continue their lives with the restriction that was put in place.
Yeah.
Right. And what about you, Alicia? What do you think? Where can you see resilience around you?
My friends and I have been staying at our own rental house instead of going back to our own hometown. So I see my friends have been hanging on there. Like we give courage each other, and then we'll be resistant from going back to our own family. So that builds the resistance in ourselves. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I can also think of, yes, here's again the QR code, so feel free to join into the conversation. I can also think of our childhood. I mean, children in general are very fragile, but even our childhood itself is filled with fragile moments. From, I feel like when we try to learn how to walk and we keep falling, even going on in when we get older, in middle school, you get bullied, and that's also a moment of fragility where you need to overcome and try to be resilient with it. Or even, I mean, I can think of myself, I changed schools from from middle school to high school. And that was a big change, obviously. I mean, changing schools isn't always easy, as much as you may like it and may want to change schools. So that's also a moment that forces you to be resilient, to keep going and overcome the difficulties around you.
And for example, do you have any moments or experiences where you felt fragile or powerless? I mean, I'm sure that we all do have some experiences or moments like that when we felt fragile. And how did you overcome them? Did you learn something from them? For example, Paris, what do you think about this topic?
I think one of the moments where I think I relate very closely to Marta, where I had to change school, but the school that I changed to was in a different country. So this put a lot of stress in my ability to learn and make new friends. And at first, I felt like the world was over because I had to endure this alone. But then I figured out that the fact that I have to go through this, and this is the way that my life should go on. And so I tried to make the best out of it. And I think the outcome of it was that I'm much better at communicating, and I've made a lot of new friends on top of the ones at home. And so now I have additional friends from a different country.
Yes, I can really relate to that, because I changed schools I changed countries too, and I am like, while you were talking, I immediately saw myself in your words. That's absolutely true. Like, the first day was like completely different, new place, new people. I didn't even know like how to, I don't know, it was all different. But that was only the beginning. But then obviously with time, you get used to it, and it's cool. Then you have friends all over, so it's fun.
Yes, I had a quite similar experience when I went to America for a year as an exchange student, and I'm so grateful for all the friends that, I mean, it was a difficult experience, but I'm so grateful for all those moments that I had to spend with my friends over there, and all the friendships that I made there. So that are really fond memories that I have.
Mm-hmm. And I was also thinking of, the fact that maybe in difficult situations we learn, like while overcoming the difficult situation, we learn some skills or some, tactics. I don't know how I would define them better to overcome it. So, for example, I don't know. I was thinking, if you change schools, you want to be more social, more open, because if you close yourself, in a bubble, then it's obvious you won't go very far unless people, get you out of your bubble. So do you think that, past situations, skills learned from past situations can help you with other situations, or that every situation is different in its own way and requires its own skills and abilities? Alicia, what do you think?
I've been thinking on, I have classes, so there must be a note-taking session, right? And then I was the one in the class that have the, what we call, has the, wait. I was the one who is liked taking notes, and then people tend to take advantages of me. So they keep on asking, "Hey, can I get your notes as a refer?" But in the end, I was the one that heard, like, why did people keep on depending on me while they can do by themselves, right? Uh, and then I learned that maybe this is a challenge for me. So I can overcome this by I maybe I can teach them instead of just giving the notes, all of the notes to them, the answer to them. So I have to teach them like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I agree. For example, I think that if each situation is quite different from the others. So, and please, if you have anything to share with us, you, the public, feel free to share it with on Slido. There is this poll that we have made, and we would like to know your opinion on this subject, on this matter. So, as I was saying, I think that each experience is quite different from each other, but at the same time, learning some. I think that all the time you're learning something, and what you have learned in the past can help you to overcome difficulties in the future. So, as I was saying before, when I went to America at the beginning, it was rather difficult for me because I wasn't really able to speak the language, and American people have a different culture from European people. So at the beginning, I was quite scared, but then I started learning that actually we are all quite similar. We like the same things, and that we shared many things in common. We had many things in common. So now I know that, and when I to meet a different culture, I'm not so scared anymore. I mean, I appreciate the other culture much more, and I'm much more outgoing, and I like to meet new people. So, what do you think about this, Marta?
Yes, I think that it's obvious. I feel like that every situation is unique in its own way. It really depends also what situations we're talking about. Also the importance of the situation, the weight it carries. But definitely some skills we manage to reuse, and we can use, and that we develop in the past we can use for future situations, because it's always helpful. I feel like every time we live a difficult situation, we always grasp something from it, and at the beginning it might seem like it's the most in the moment, it might seem like the most traumatic situation ever. It might seem like the end of the world, as Fadi said before. And then once you overcome it, only afterwards, you actually realize how it formed you as an individual, how it made you who you are today. And it actually, it actually just helped you discover yourself. Even Giacomo saying, I learned how to deal with other cultures, I learned how to approach new cultures, new people. So, I feel like that's very important too, what it leaves for you afterwards, what a difficult situation leaves you with, and the skills it leaves you with, which remain with you forever. I mean, they always stay with you and they can always help you in some other situation. So.
I agree.
Yeah, actually.
Oh, no, please go on.
No, I just wanted to say that I remembered now the picture that we showed of Maria Rapicavoli, the broken stem. That kind of exactly represents the skills that we are left with, the skills that remain with us, and are helpful. Exactly, it's kind of like the same thing, So it's broken, so something left us, but at the same, the missing bowl. But at the same time, that is what remains with us. So yeah.
Yes, I agree. And Faris, do you have anything to share with us about this? Do you have any thoughts?
I think it's more on the what you said, Giacomo. Is the we have even though different situations require different approaches, we actually have had the blueprint from the first time we've experienced it. So, like I said, with the new school that I went to, at first, for that school, my experience was really bad. But then when I returned home, then I had to approach new people. I already knew which type of approach I could use, and then I just applied it. So that's the type of skills that stayed with me for as long as I could remember now.
Okay, thank you. And so while Marta and I were thinking about resilience and how we use it to overcome fragilities, we thought about.
Oh, I think lost you for a second. Your connection.
Oh, okay.
You're back,
so after
probably.
fragile moments, you go through resilience, not always, but most of the times. And then we thought that actually you rebuild something. So Marta, do you want to say something about this topic?
Yes, I think that rebuilding is as important as the overcoming of the moment of fragility, because it's what comes afterwards. I mean, moments of fragility shape us, shape our personality by changing part of it. And through resilience, we are exactly the ones who, rebuild upon what remains from the past. However, talking with Giacomo, we thought that in order for this process to succeed, for this, whole thing to succeed, we need to embrace the weakness of our fragility, the part that we might not like in that moment, but it's what we need to do in order to reach the resilient stage. And I mean, as I was saying before, we go back to what we were saying about how afterwards, in the future, when we look back on things of the past, they don't seem as, as traumatic as they seemed in the moment. And I also remember that I had read something about rebuilding, known as post-traumatic growth, and how people actually underestimate the influence of these moments, so how important they actually are. In the moment, they obviously give a lot of importance to them, but they don't think about what it can leave them with. And so we are actually all afterwards thankful for the fragilities we lived through, because they obviously formed us as individuals and they helped us grow. So as I was saying before, I think we could say that we are who we are precisely because of the more challenging events that I faced, because they built me as a person, as an individual, and they helped me. I mean, many of these situations, I mean, the first thing that I can think of that it gives us is confidence, strength. So persistence, how you can deal with the situations, the growth it gives you, the confidence. I think that's a key word in this situation. I don't know if anybody else agrees. But.
Yes, do you have anything to add? Alicia, for example. or okay, I agree with you, Marta. As we said before, I think that an important part of our development is to embrace our fragilities, because they're always a part of us and surround us constantly. I strongly believe that weaknesses are a fertile ground on which we can build ourselves and constantly grow. Most literature talks about building strength and managing weaknesses. There is a lot of literature talks about building on weaknesses and managing them. So it's important to be aware that vulnerability is actually a strength, and so you can gain from it. So it's not always a weakness. But that is an important part of our everyday life. So actually, when you experience a difficult moment and go through resilience, you can reach a moment of rebuilding an important part of yourself with all the strength that resilience to you. Resilience causes you to react and then act, whether it is by creating a new you or by recreating your old self. If we go back to the image of the broken glass, we can think about it as substituting the missing bowl with something else, or as recreating a very similar bowl of the glass. So, do you think that usually when you go through resilience, do you believe your old self with some slight improvement, or do you think that resilience leads you to become a whole new person?
Actually prepared a poll for this, so if we want to, we might show you again the QR code, so if you feel free to scan it and vote what you believe. If you remain your old self, or if you try to become a whole new person.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think I think sometimes some situations I've tried to keep true to myself and tried to when the situation breaks me, as in the fragility of my confidence or my abilities, I try to keep true to myself and try to avoid that kind of fragility. But there are situations where I let myself into that fragility, and I let myself what's it called, break and reform, as you said. So it really depends on the types of situations that we face.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say, Alicia? Do you think that usually you change a lot after a difficult moment, or do you think that mostly you remain your old self?
I think resilience does helps me becoming a new person. Like it teach me how to repair what mistake I've been done before that, and I can see how I can take the approachable method in order to overcome the resilience.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm looking at the poll now. The first option is the most, the one that most people chose. Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I agree with that too. I mean, resilience does lead you to become a new person. Obviously, some part of you remains, right? Definitely, because it's part of you. It's part of your past self.
Yes, I believe that an example could be ancient ruins, because they resisted the passing of time and various atmospheric agents, such as wind or rain. However, the numerous changes they underwent made them as such. So something from their old self remains, but at the same time, they are something different from how they used to be. For example, here in Italy, we have many ancient ruins. Would it be, the Colosseum, or other Roman ruins, which are not as they used to be. For example, from the Colosseum, some part of it are missing, and all the marble from the facade actually is missing too, because they used it for something different. So it's a very different building from how it used to be. but at the same time, something from the past remains. So the numerous changes that they underwent, I think that made them as such. So do you have any thought about this? Is it similar in Malaysia? Do you have any historic building that has been destroyed or at least been partially destroyed?
I think most notably are the traditional houses that we have back in our hometown. Like the differences between the architecture in the cities and the where we had our what's it called, our origin, like our hometown. I don't know how to say it, but we have a word for it in Malaysia. So because it's a really this differences allows us to have this relief that when we come back home, we actually know that we are home, because these differences allow us to not not familiarize ourselves with work. But then when we go home, we have something new to look at, something that we haven't seen in a long time, and something very peaceful to keep our mind at.
That's very interesting. I really like that idea that you come home to, the comfort of your home to something that that is different from. Yeah, that's nice.
And what
Alicia,
about
do you have anything to add?
I think no, because my own hometown is at the city, so I never felt the hometown vibe.
Right. So it depends, obviously, where your hometown is, I guess, how it is.
Yes, because for example, for the monuments in Italy, the changes that they endured and the difference that they showed are what makes them known today. In some way, that can be considered resilience because you're still standing. So no matter how many hard times they endured, I believe that this is like architecture shows a resilience in every possible way.
Yeah, it's what we were saying before about us as people, as individuals. It's as if the ancient ruins we're now talking about. They're like us, so they go through so many difficult moments. When, well, obviously, for them it's more atmospheric agents and such. But I mean, even just frescoes, they're known because they're so ruined, because they're so, like, the history that remains within them that they hold is that shows that shows their magnificence, what they're so famous for, and what they're so beautiful, why they're so beautiful. So I really believe that it's a great example to show that the changes, the difficult moments we live through actually stay with us and form us, and then show with us when we show to others. I see Caterina drawing, and I'm mesmerized by it. Yeah, because now that you're talking about ancient monuments, as Caterina is drawing, I mean, I don't know if you know the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, and its spire, who through a fire, I think 2 years ago, got destroyed. And I read articles and doubts of people asking, how will it become? Will they make it a whole new cathedral, a modern cathedral, something completely different from how it was before, or will they try to keep it as similar as it was before? So do they renovate it and make it something super modern and completely different, or do they keep it as it was before? And I think that's another matter that can be discussed, because some people like it modern and like it completely different, but at the same time it has nothing to do with how it was before and how what it was known for, how the whole architecture behind it, the whole thought process behind it. I don't know if you know anything about it, if you know more about it, about the restoration of it, what your opinions are on it, if you believe it's better to keep it as it was, or completely change it and see something new.
Thank you. I think this is a very interesting thing, because when you ask most people that are proud of their history, they would say that we must preserve it because it shows who we are and who we will be seen in the future. But then I think sometimes this kind of changes, it provides opportunities for new types of art to be born, or new types of design that new people, like new engineers, new students, it gives them opportunity to try and experiment and to create something new that people that feels that they have to preserve, they'll look at it and they'll see, oh, this is we can hold on to this. This actually also shows our culture very well. It shows our past very well, our history very well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Because, making it something completely new and modern might seem like a sort of destruction of what there was before of history, even though the spire itself is already destroyed. But it means changing the whole cathedral and the whole image of the cathedral as it is known to everyone. So, yeah, it's a big debate.
Yes, and about resilience in general, I think that another nice thought is another nice story is what Maria Rapicavoli, the artist from the picture that we have shown, from the artwork that we have shown at the beginning, shared with Marta and I. So I don't know if you know it, but she grew up in Sicily, at the foot of the volcano Etna, and she shared with us this interesting story of how people there are used to a continuous cycle of destruction and reconstruction due to its lava eruptions. So Maria herself said to be used to being able to react and reconstruct thanks to her experience while growing up, a strength that helped her to have resilience through the pandemic. And we have a very nice comment. First of all, thank you all for commenting on Slido. And there is a very nice comment which says, every time I think that I reached the limit, I try to remind myself that I can be resilient, and I push. That we have to remember to remind ourselves that we can be resilient even in very difficult moments. And I think this is something that you can learn through time, as Maria did, and that the experiences that you have can actually help you a lot in these situations.
So. Yes, because even the fact that if you grow up in an environment that's always, you wake up and you don't know what will happen that day, if the houses around you or your own house will be destroyed, if the people around you might get hurt, stuff like that, that obviously stays with you forever, I think, especially if you experienced it when you're small and a child, and it gets you used to being ready to react to any bad or traumatic events, whether it's something like with the weather or volcanoes or even harder moments. So yeah, I think that really stays with you too, and it helps you. It gives you something more when you have to face a difficult situation. I don't know if Alicia or Paris, if you have any, not maybe childhood, but moments where that you, like a specific moment where you said, oh wow, this definitely will help me in the future, because it definitely it led me to be ready to anything, to any difficult moment, which actually goes back to what we said in the beginning, how skills get used and used again.
I've been thinking about during my childhood, my parents were both of them were working, and I was the one that will take care of my siblings. I have another five under me. And then I'll pick up on skills on what to do if they're hungry, if they were sick suddenly. So what I have to do, and then those things were the one that keeps on that I keep on look forward, like how I can innovate how I can improve myself like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been so it's been a nice it was a nice experience up until now. Uh,
Yeah, I'm sure. Now, if you see a baby, you immediately understand maybe, you know, what it needs to stop
yes.
crying or to. That's a good thing to have. That helps
Yeah.
you.
It's definitely a useful skill. And what
Yeah.
about you, Faris?
Oh yeah, I think when we talk about change, we think about the like abrupt change that comes into our lives, like the pandemic that suddenly stopped everything. But then there are a lot of changes that comes very slowly, and then it runs deeply into our lives, like technologies where at the start people didn't really think that we needed it, but then now we almost depend on it every day. So yeah, I think change is like something very good that we can get used to, and we also need to see. We also need to choose what kind of difficulties that we want to try and endure, because it can give like such good return. Like technologies gives us such advantage nowadays that it's almost impossible to live without it.
Yeah, I think you know, the pandemic this year we've been living is a perfect example. I was talking the other day with a person who was not that old at all, and he was thinking, if when I was in university this happened in college, how we would have all stopped studying. You know, it would have all been chaos completely. I mean, not that this hasn't been chaos, obviously, but the fact of having technology saved so many people, so many situations, because if we didn't have the internet now, I mean, first of all, we wouldn't be here experiencing this amazing opportunity, having this amazing opportunity to talk with you. And especially we would stop studying, people would stop working from home. I mean, it wouldn't exist at all. So everything would have stopped completely, which, I don't know, it's crazy to think of. And it wasn't that long ago that technology, you know, this whole thing started. So yeah, I think as a conclusion, we can think that we can say that we're not that good at perceiving how fragile we are, and even less we are aware of how resilient we are, because often we don't realize how resilient we can be, how confident, how many things we can grasp from difficult situations, and how we can grow from them and build strength and confidence. So, I mean, I hope that this conversation, Giacomo, and I hope that this conversation taught you how to appreciate your weaknesses and overcome them. I think that all of us through this past year have learned how to overcome it, and how difficult it is in some moments, but also how rewarding it can be afterwards, thanks to the resilience within you. So, yes. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you for sharing your experiences, and I definitely learned more all about you.
Thank you very much also,
Thank
Marta
you.
and Giacomo, for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.